Nice to see you both. Vince, does this sort of lay bare this rift and divide between George W. Bush Republicans, Reagan Republicans, and the MAGA world?
Well, the feud between the two of them is long running, mostly a one-sided battle. Of course, George W. Bush has been the target of so many attacks from Donald Trump from the moment that he was running for president the first time. The first time that he actually went the distance in 2016. And I think what you're looking at now is a fight between a guy who has a sizable constituency, Donald Trump, and a guy who really doesn't have a sizable constituency other than among a few establishment Republicans, George W. Bush. And I think, as we exit Afghanistan, it's one of those things to remember. It's like, Republicans broadly are much more with Donald Trump on a host of issues to include foreign entanglements than they are with George W. Bush, who they see as a part of a status quo in Washington that they've rejected. And so I think this is just the latest iteration in that battle.
Well, and President Trump didn't waste any time bringing that up. In fact, he just put out a statement that came to us in the past couple of minutes. We're going to put it up on the screen, at least in part, Sarah, as we get to you. Bush is the one who got us into the quicksand of the Middle East, and after spending trillions of dollars and killing nearly 1 million people, he continues going after George W. Bush. Sarah, I guess the question would be, and let me figure out the right way to say this, how can Republicans capitalize on the civil war that we just heard about, that's certainly raging right now on Capitol Hill among Democrats, if they're at odds with each other?
Well, I don't think that the rifts within the GOP are necessarily comparable to the ones that we see among Democrats right now. For Democrats, this is more of a day-to-day thing. They're divided on how to conduct their domestic policy agenda, their foreign policy agenda, just on a day-to-day basis, just on passing individual pieces of legislation. But when it comes to Republicans, they are really unified for all intents and purposes in their opposition to Democratic policies, in the way they've been criticizing the Biden administration. But where their divides lie is sort of in the future of the party and what direction they should go next. That's not as time sensitive as the kind of divides that you see among Democrats. Those need to be solved right away for Biden to have any chance of having a successful presidency, given the likelihood that he's going to lose at least one chamber of Congress next November. Yeah. For Republicans, they have some time to figure this out. The midterms for them could be a really important test of whether Donald Trump's clout within the Republican Party remains into next year. He's already done more than 40 endorsements, a lot of those in primaries. So that'll be a really key test.
Yeah, and we've seen that
power among Republicans.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that President Trump does well, or his endorsees do well in primaries. Whether or not they do so well in general elections is something different. But you say day-to-day that it's not a day-to-day fight. Then you look at this headline from the Wall Street Journal. Trump's looks for challenger to depose Mitch McConnell as split widens. GOP's most influential figure and its top elected official are divided on policy, politics, and who should lead the party in the future. All right, so Vince, Trump versus Bush, we know where you come down to. Where do you come down, Trump versus McConnell?
Well, McConnell is definitely an establishment figure. There's no way to escape that. And I think, again, this is sort of that anti-establishment streak in Trump. Remember, I mean, a lot of the stuff that animates Trump is looking back and feeling like he was failed legislatively by people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, and that they didn't do more to help him secure the border and secure all of the goals that he had for his presidency. Now, Mitch McConnell's an interesting one because Trump was pleased with him when it came to approving so many judges to fill the federal judiciary. And I think we're seeing some of the legacy of that right now as Joe Biden has to struggle with a court system that doesn't reflexively go along with every executive order he passes. But this is I think it's a meaningful fight. And when Trump says stuff like this, it's not just Trump. It's the Republican base says things like, where's Mitch McConnell? Why isn't he fighting for me? What does he even believe in? So Trump, as usual, is channeling a sizable portion of the party.
You and I, Vince, have often taught that the two people you don't bet against in Washington are Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi. But you bring up this good point in terms of where is the party headed. This is the most recent poll about the field for 2024, which is sort of the only way to poll this of who leads the party. Trump, 58%, Pence, 13%, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, 9%. Sarah, I got 30 seconds or so. Is there anybody who can challenge Donald Trump be it Mitch McConnell or anyone else, not for the presidency, but for control right now of the party?
Well, right now, as long as Donald Trump is remaining as vocal and as active as he is, there's not really a lot of oxygen for anyone else to take up that mantle. And very few have even really tried. There have been some very conservative candidates, politicians, people taking up the populism mantle, but no one who's really tried to emulate his style and his approach. And until someone is able to do that successfully, there's nowhere else for his base to really go.
Well, yeah, and they're certainly not going to go to somebody like Chris Christie, who's sort of spoken out against the base. Vince, Sarah, great conversation. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Leland.
Yeah, fantastic.